sure. There's just the least amount of questions to be asked about whether she's the GOAT of her sport with her. I think it's the most clear cut.
He's probably my favourite player of all time. Geez, it's tough. Almost sportsman.
He has the two biggest medal hauls in this decade. So, like, it's just
freakish.
That basically just speaks for itself, really.
Queensland, it's a miracle. Oh, yeah. What about that one? Unbelievable. Balotelli, Aguero. Crowd cheers. Here's Siddle. Oh, the ball is close. He's given him. He's given him. Peter Siddle's got a hat-trick on his birthday.
Welcome back to episode 45, I think it is, of the On The Ball podcast. We're filming this a solid week in advance, so it's a bit confusing with all the numbers, but I'm once again joined by recent appearers on the podcast, but they're back for more. Peanut and Josh Brown. Welcome, boys.
Thanks for having me. Good to be back.
Cool. Pleasure to be back.
Yeah, your performances in the previous episodes were too good to ignore. We had to get you back on, but nah. Pleasure to be here with you on your Monday afternoon. So this is coming out in like Tuesday next week, so it's quite a long time away, but it doesn't really matter because this stuff's not really time relevant. So there's something that, well, a lot of people talk about it, isn't it? Like, who's the best athlete of all time, stuff like this. But I thought that's too much of a big deal. You can't really be comparing people from the 1920s to the 2020s. Yeah, exactly. The Donald Bradman versus Steve Smith, stuff like that. It's all too complex. So we thought we would narrow it down. We were having a bit of a chat in one of our group chats the other month about this, and it started to get pretty heated. Well, not heated, but there was a lot of opinions being thrown around. And that was about the 21st century. Even that was too heated for me. So we've gone even smaller. We've gone the previous decade. We've done quite a bit of decade content on this show. So this is probably going to be the perfect way to round off all that stuff. We're not going to determine a number one, but we're just going to discuss who are the candidates of the best, the title, who has one hand on the title of best athlete of the 2010s decade. So I have to admit, a lot of this is like down to my opinion. So you guys may have been dogged there. I don't know if you had someone. So what we did, we thought it'd be too difficult if we all brought our own to the table. So what I did, I made a list of 12. I started with a list of about 70. So if anyone you can think of was probably in contention, and then I narrowed it down to 12. And we're going to just, present 4 each, discuss why they should be considered the best athlete, why they shouldn't be. And, we're just going to discuss each athlete and what makes them so great. We're not going to really be looking to name a number one or anything like that. I know I get stressed about this topic. I feel like I'm doing injustice to the others that I'm not saying are the best, because they're obviously all really good at their chosen sports. But yeah, how are we on this fine Monday afternoon anyway, Brownie?
Yeah, going well. Enjoyed looking through these different people's achievements in the last decade, and just thinking about it, it's just almost impossible to compare people within across different sports, especially if you've got two people who are the greatest of the last decade within their respective sports. Like, how are you going to compare those two people? It's almost impossible. So yeah, I'm happy just to discuss the pros and cons of each person, and I don't think anyone's going to ever come to a conclusion on this, to be honest.
No, it was hard enough as it is making the top 12. I'm glad we're not really narrowing it down any further. How are you going, Nut? Did you enjoy your research? Or
yeah, it was good. I think I agree with Brownie. You can't really compare because looking through in terms of numbers, where you might have like an athlete or a runner that might run 40 like major races in his life, compared to like a driver of a motorsport that might do hundreds of races. It's a bit hard to compare numbers and percentages, I think. But I think discussions will have a few good chats, and I think maybe some people might stand out, maybe might be pretty even 12. So I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah. All right, Brownie, do you want to start us off with it doesn't matter what order you chat about them in. But who would you like to bring up first?
So the first person on the list that you gave me that I'll talk about is Eliud Kipchoge, who's probably one of the least known names
For sure.
of everyone.
Yeah.
It's probably fair to say. But he is an incredible athlete. He is a marathon runner or a long distance runner who has been undefeated in the marathon since 2013. He's won, I think he's won 11 or 12 marathons in a row, something like that. 8 of them have been like the major marathons, the major city marathons, and he won the Olympic gold at Rio. He also has the marathon official world record, which he got in 2018, which is 2 hours, 1 minute, 39 seconds. And then in an unofficial event last year, he became the first person ever to break 2 hours in the marathon. He ran 1:59:40. That's not an official world record because they had paces, like pacemakers, go in and out, and that's like against the rules for an official world record.
Yeah, those weird shoes, didn't he, as well?
Yeah, the shoes weren't the issue, I don't think,
Yeah.
but it's just the way they did it with the pacemaking because they wanted to make like him like the most aerodynamic way of pacing. And obviously, there's no one in the world that can pace him for like 40 Ks
Yeah.
because he's the fittest. So
Yeah.
So yeah, he's the best marathon runner of all time, unquestionably. Like undefeated for a very long time. The world record, unofficial world record, first person to go into 2 hours. Won the last Olympic goals. Hasn't lost for what 6-7 years. The questions that kind of make it questionable. Well, one thing is with running, with like general athletics events, is there's so many different distances, and being the best at one distance and not the best at multiple kind of makes you question, like, because then you could have the best of all time could be so many different people who have every single world record, you know. Also, early in the decade, the first like 4 years, he didn't really do anything. He was still a track runner, like 5,000, 10,000 meters, and like didn't even qualify for the 2012 Olympics for Kenya. Like he came like 5th in the Olympic trials or something, and just didn't qualify. Because he did like elite things in the 5,000 and 10,000 in like the decade prior, and was kind of fading early in the decade, and then moved up to the marathon. And obviously, has done very well.
Yeah. We've got 3 athletes in this 12. But I guess we're going to try and pick holes in each person's like case, but realistically they're all elite.
Yeah.
But one thing I've got against athletics is there's no one stopping you. Like you could be the best, well, like Messi and Ronaldo, they're probably the best soccer players ever. Tom Brady's probably the best quarterback ever, whatever. They've got to play against defenses who are trying to stop them. They can do, like as we saw in the Michael Jordan documentary, you can do like dodgy tactics to try and slow them down, like illegal stuff. Where if you're the fastest at that distance, nothing can stop you. Like there's nothing to prevent you from winning because it's just like everyone's kind of just racing against themselves almost. But yeah, that's obviously a talent if you can just run faster than everyone else.
Yeah.
And there's something about the marathon that's just like, it just seems like prestigious. It's like you're the fastest marathon runner. Like that's elite.
Yeah,
Where if you're like the fastest 20K runner, it's like, well, that's also elite, but it's like just not as cool.
No one really cares.
Yeah. As you were saying, athletics is like, it's a tough one because in my list, I think there was more athletes than any other sport, just because, as you said, there's a lot of people who dominate their own race. So there's like David Rudisha who dominates the 800, and there's a few others.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we've got 3 in this list, but I think they're all pretty fair candidates.
I mean, all 3 of them are arguably, if you're like the greatest of all time in your specific event, it's hard to like not consider you, because even if you're just the best in your decade, but not the best, you're the best at your event in the last decade, but you like don't have any like world records, or you're not the best ever, then I can understand you not being included. But I mean, if you're the best of all time in something sport, it's hard not to put you in the best of the decade, like at least in contention.
Yeah, 100%. And telling me the other day that he's coming up against, I don't know his first name, but Bekele or
Yeah.
whatever his name is,
So
who's like his
yeah,
big.
they're the
Whoa.
two big marathon runners at the moment. Bekele's like probably better overall, like had a better career. He's probably the best of all time when it comes to like 5,000, 10,000. But he was on with 2 seconds off Kipchoge's world record, and last year, but they've never actually
That's so
in a
little.
marathon 2 seconds. But they've never actually like raced against each other in a marathon, or not at
That's
least since
crazy.
like Bekele's became good at the marathon. So
Yeah.
it'll be like they were meant to be London Marathon earlier this year. They were meant to face off, but that was cancelled. And then obviously the Olympics, Tokyo Olympics, will be the time where we'll be able to truly see who's the better one. But
Yeah, I can't say I've ever cared about the Olympic marathon, but especially after talking to you about it. But I do know a bit about both of them, so I think I'll definitely tune into that one next year or whenever it happens. Yeah. There's something crazy, I reckon, about going from running 5Ks to a marathon. It's like, I know it makes sense because you're obviously extremely
just long
fit to run
distance,
5Ks at such pace, but like people can't go from 100 to 400 meters, and that's like that's a half a track difference or whatever. So to go from 5K to a marathon and still be the fastest in the world or whatever, that's just a crazy thought.
Yeah, I guess it's just all aerobic capacity, and it's just
exactly.
the further and further you get, it just stays at like 5K. It's all just like your aerobic capacity, and it just stays that way no matter how long you go.
Yeah. All right, Peanut. Who are you going with first?
Off the top, number one. I'll go a big Lewis Hamilton following our F1 podcast.
Yeah.
Lewis Hamilton, I mean, it's just really dominated this decade. Well, he's won 6 championships in his career, one in 2008, the rest in the decade going. And he holds a crazy amount of records for the sport. He's got the most consecutive race starts. Nico Rosberg's second, and he's retired, and he's 47 starts behind him. So I think he's just he started and he hasn't stopped racing, this man.
Yeah.
He's got the second most wins in F1 history. Obviously, this isn't just this decade, but since 2007, I'm pretty sure it is. He's got 5 wins behind Schumacher, who's first. And look, I'd back Hamilton in to get that arguably this year or the rest of his career. So I think he'll boom that. And he's got the 4th highest win percentage, with the first 3 people having less than 75 starts each. So obviously the percentages are way off. So the number of races he's had have that percentage is absolutely ridiculous. But 2014, 18, and 19, he had 11 wins in the racing season. So, again, pretty crazy. I think it's out of 19 and 20 races, depending on the season, which is actually the tied second most wins in a season behind Vettel and Schumacher, who had 13 in their own years. But, again, that's over 50% win rate for a whole season against the big dogs like Vettel and Webber going around, Rosberg. And then there's some tracks where he just doesn't lose. He's won 6 Hungary Grand Prix since 2010. So again, 6 out of 10. 7 wins at Canada. And he actually has 3 out of the 8 most wins at the same Grand Prix, if I've worded that correctly. So I think he has his favourite tracks, US, Canada, Hungary. And he actually is second for the most years with at least a win, 1 year behind Schumacher. So I think they've counted this season so far because he's got a win. So next season, I think he'll tie that
up.
And he's on record for the most pole positions in the history of the sport, with 22 ahead of Schumacher, who's second. So he's pretty dominant there on the pole position. And in terms of podiums, another big stat, he's got 2 less finishes behind Schumacher on the podium. But Hamilton's got 50 less starts, like I said earlier. So pretty.
And he'll break that in the next month.
So he's going to lead most of the big stats and records for the sport.
Yeah.
In the next year almost. So, but yeah, the decade he's dominated 6 years in a row or something in 2014. Oh, and he came second in 2016 by a couple points, which is also pretty stiff. So
yeah. I think it's fair to say, although Schumacher leads him in quite a few records, I think in 1 or 2 years he'll be 100% considered the GOAT of F1 racing, which is definitely a worthy and not, I think like 80% of his racing career has been in the last decade. So definitely a worthy person to be in this list. I think the biggest cross against Lewis's name is probably just the nature of motorsports.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not 100% down to you. It's obviously a lot down to the car.
Yeah.
It would be good to see how he goes. Obviously, this isn't going to affect our 2010s rankings, but it would be good to see how he goes in the next couple of years when the rules change and it might become a bit more fair between the teams. But at the moment, I don't think anyone can really get close to Mercedes. So it's kind of a question of how good actually is he. But I think he's just done it over so many years that by this point, I think it's fair to say I don't think anyone else could be, even if they were in his car, could be doing a better job. I think maybe Max Verstappen in the last year has maybe become the best driver, but yeah, pretty
to
much
his
since
credit,
2013.
when he started in 07, I think at McLaren, I think he had a record year for first debut year. Right?
Yeah.
I think he came second or something in the championship in a
Yeah.
McLaren. So fair credit to him, but
Yeah.
it is argued that the car is a big factor.
Yeah. But then you can kind of argue that with any team sport, really, can't you? Obviously, I'll just say it again, but obviously, like Ronaldo and Messi, they're great players, but they've been part of great teams. Like Messi has played with 2 or 3 of the best midfielders of all time. Ronaldo, similar thing. He played in probably the best team ever in Real Madrid in the 2013, 14, 15 period. So I guess you could, if you look at it that way, well, then there's nothing really
You can
against
also
him.
say, on the other hand, with Mercedes or with those soccer teams, are those teams the best? Would those teams still be the best ever if these players weren't in them? You know,
Yeah,
so
that is true.
it kind of goes both ways. And what I
Yeah.
have to ask about the F1 with Hamilton, what's been the success of him against the other Mercedes driver over the last 10 years? Has he done consistently always done better than the other driver? Pretty much, yeah.
The current other Mercedes drivers, Valtteri Bottas, and he had, I think Bottas is in the top 10 for the most races without a win or a podium, or before their first podium or something. So I think he had him covered for a fair bit, and then I think Bottas, he's got a few more wins to his name now, Valtteri, but it's definitely still
I don't think he's lost to his teammate since 2013. Overall in a season, obviously there's a couple races where he loses each year, but pretty much he's always the number one. But you can argue a lot of the times they'll try a guinea pig tactic kind of with the second driver. So they'll take a risk with them and then they'll do the safe thing with Lewis. But it's definitely because he's the better driver. I think we can confidently say that I think he would be beating pretty much any driver, apart from, as I said before, Verstappen in the last 12 months if they were in the same car as him.
Yeah.
So that is obviously the big X next to any motorsport driver's name. Has to be said, there's a MotoGP, so the motorbikes, there's a driver who has very similar records to Lewis Hamilton called Marc Marquez, but he missed out just because it's a myth sport. I won't lie, I considered it, but I'm nah, I can't be having 2 motorsports people in. So Lewis is definitely by far the biggest star. And although this isn't why he's made the list or anything, but there's quite a few people on this list who this applies to. But Lewis is also he seems like a really good person off the track as well. He does a lot. He's been doing a lot for the Black Lives Matter movement, and he's always done a lot for minority groups and stuff like that, and especially the black communities in the UK. So obviously that's not something we really need to take into account, but to be a megastar of his level, I feel like it's also important to use your platform, and he does that.
Yeah.
And he's a good pin-up boy for F1, who Schumacher was also a good pin-up boy, but Sebastian Vettel and stuff, they weren't the greatest
I
blokes. So
was doing the research in the start of Hamilton's career. Apparently the media just went at him for being so cocky and arrogant and selfish on the track and stuff. But he said his way of driving was harsh but fair or something. But then obviously he's turned it around. I think the media loves him.
Yeah, he's
I
like,
think
everyone loves him.
So.
Yeah, and he's like, he never even takes credit for the wins nowadays. He's just like, I'd 100% like to thank the team. Like, obviously, it's easy to say, but he genuinely looks like he's very grateful to be driving the best car in the race. So, yeah, it's pretty understandable why he's in the list. I was looking at a few other people's lists, and he was pretty much regularly in the top 5. So, yeah, a bit of a no-brainer there for me. It was just a matter of whether to include motorsports people as well, because we didn't include jockeys, and technically it's the same thing. But nah, I won't lie. I did look at jockeys, and there was just like no one who stood out. Maybe Big Frankie Dettori, but nah. I was kidding myself.
Has been in the news for a bit of drama and stuff, so
Yeah.
I think it's probably a good thing you didn't include him.
Yeah. So I'll go into mine. I'll start with. So in my 4, there's probably 2 lesser known people and 2 like absolute stars. So I'll probably leave the stars to the end. I'll probably have to present them as one. So I'll start with Katie Ledecky. She's only 23, as is one of my other athletes, which is just crazy to think that she's in the decade, like the best athletes in the decade. She would have started the decade like 11? No, 12.
12, 13 maybe.
Yeah. So that's crazy. If you asked her in 2010, like, are you going to make this list? She'd probably be like, what? I'm probably just going to be in college or something, but for most of it. So, yeah, she's an absolute beast. Brownie, you probably know more about her than me, but I've done my research here. She won 5 gold medals at the Olympics this decade and a silver medal. In saying that, she realistically only went to the 2016 Olympics. In 2012. She was like still in high school, I think, and she only entered, I think, one event, and she won it. She has 15 World Championship gold medals, which is the most ever by a female swimmer, and she has that record by 5. And once again, she's only 23, so she's probably only going to extend her lead on that, because I think the person in second's like 42. Franny, do you know the Iron Woman, the Hungarian like Katinka Hotzu or something? She does like all the medley. She does all the medleys and stuff. Yeah, I remember her from the 2016 Olympics. But yeah, she's like 40. She still swims. She has the most combined gold medals in individual events, if so, excluding the relays, for the Olympics and World Championships combined. And she's only been to basically 1 Olympics, and I'm sure she has 1 or 2 more left in her. So that's crazy that she already leads that. She holds the world record in 400, 800, and 1500 meter freestyle. And she's not only broken them once, she's broken them 14 times.
So many times.
So on average, she's broken her own record in each event like 4 times or something.
Hasn't
and
she?
She also
Did she break a world record of a different event midway through another event? I think she did that once.
Oh, really? What, like
in like a 1500, broke the 800 meter freestyle world record while swimming the 1500, like halfway through.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure she, like, these aren't like official events, but I think she also has the fastest time ever for like 500, 1,000, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But they're not counted. She has the 3rd biggest Olympic medal haul of this decade behind Phelps times 2. She won 5 in that one, so 4 gold, 1 silver. And she won the Female World Swimmer of the Year 5 times, and she's basically only been around for 6 years. So couldn't really do much else there, could she?
Dominating.
So it's pretty much self-explanatory why she's in there. One of the best. I think the Olympics, it's very obvious. Like, it's clear cut. If you win gold, you're a jet. If you're winning 5 golds, you're automatically in contention to make this list, which is probably a fair case for a few of these people. So yeah, Ledecky. I guess what's against her, maybe the fact that she's only been swimming for like 60% of the decade. I don't know if that's a flaw. If anything, that's a credit to her. Maybe similar to the athletics thing. In swimming, no one can stop you. Like, if you're 1% better than everyone else, you're going to win every race pretty much every time. Where if Tom Brady's 1% better than every other quarterback, well, he's might not win every game because the defense might just be good or something. So that's probably one thing, but that's going to be the case in all individual sports pretty much. So yeah, I don't think. Do you guys have anything against Katie Ledecky and why she
A
should?
pretty good track record. For
Yeah.
Yeah, is there
There's not
anything
much
we?
else to say.
Is there any holes we can pick?
Oh, not
Look,
really.
can't think of any. She's got plenty of world records.
Maybe maybe she needs to find a more diverse range of events. She's a bit boring.
Strokes.
We get it. You can swim a lot of laps of freestyle. Do something else. Nah, but yeah, there's not really much we can say about her.
Yeah.
Like winning the third most medals at the Olympics this decade, like at one of the Olympics, that's a pretty good effort. And to be behind Michael Phelps, that's no joke. Obviously, one of the greatest athletes of all time, Big Phelpsy.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think that's pretty much all we need to say for Katie Ledecky. There's quite a few people who just pop up and have these one-off freak Olympics, especially in swimming. Missy Franklin, she's a myth, but I think she actually came out. I think she won 4 gold medals in the 2012 Olympics, and she never did anything ever again, and did nothing before that. So Ledecky's kind of showing she's more than just like a flash in the pan, and is looking like she's going to dominate Tokyo, and then what is 2024? Is it
Paris?
Yeah, Paris.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
UCDs.
And is 2028 LA?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
All three.
So yeah, that's Katie Ledecky's case. Pretty hard to argue, and similar to Brownie, she's probably one of the more lesser known people on this list. If you didn't watch the Olympics in 2016, you probably wouldn't have an idea who she is, because not many people really watch the World Championships. And yeah, but that's Katie Ledecky for you. Only 23 years of age and pretty comfortably in this list. So freak. Brownie, who are you rolling with next?
So next is the other runner of the two, Mo Farah. He's probably the highest profile long distance runner in a very long time, because
he's British.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, he competes for Britain.
Yeah.
Isn't he actually like Somalian
He's
or something?
born in Somalia, yeah. But he's full on British though.
Yeah, it counts. Yeah. Otherwise, the Kate Campbell.
So his achievement, pretty much from 2011 to 2017. 2017 is when he decided to change into the marathon from 5,000 and 10,000. But from 2011 to 2017, pretty much dominated 5,000 and 10,000, almost unbeatable. He won the 5,000 and 10,000 golds at London and in Rio. Then the 4 world championships over that time, he won 6 golds and 2 silvers in those 2 events. And then he won one of his silvers in 2011 and one of them in 2017. So pretty much from 2012 to 2016, in those 4 major championships, he didn't lose in the 5,000 or in the 10,000, which is pretty crazy, to be honest. I feel like all of that pretty much speaks for itself. He's known as a racer. He knows because interestingly, when I looked at his personal best in the 5,000 and 10,000, which he dominated, in the 5,000, he's the 35th fastest of all time.
Yeah, I looked at that. He doesn't have any world records, does he?
35th fastest of all time in 5,000 and 16th fastest of all time in the 10,000, which is doesn't seem very impressive when you think about that. But then obviously all those times are super close to each other, and he's a racer. He doesn't push the pace. He's not there to break world records, but he's a fast finisher, and he knows exactly how to win races, and he does it almost every single time, which is pretty incredible. So who knows if there was someone around who pushed the pace in those races and wanted to get those, was capable of pushing the pace to get those world records, maybe his personal best would be better. But I don't think it's not like the marathon, or this is where it comes a bit different to the marathon, because I don't think your time is that important. You winning is more important than your times, especially in the longer distances when it's more tactical, whereas obviously in a sprint, you're just running as fast as you can for the entire time.
Obviously, they're going very fast, but sometimes you'll watch a 5,000 or 10,000, and the first couple laps, you'll hear the commentators say this is a very slow pace and stuff, because it's kind of I don't know what the cycling event is called, but when they I think Anna Mears used to do it. I think
I know the one you're talking about,
where they just crawl around and then one just dive bombs, and that's kind of obviously it's not as extreme as that they kind of gradually build up in the running, but it's
Yeah.
kind of like that where the first couple
Yeah.
can be very slow.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
And it depends on the runner. There's some runners who are known for like pushing the pace and they're better over the distance, but they're not as fast finishers, so they may do that. But Mo Farah's
Yeah.
definitely he's very fast. Like his
Yeah.
sprint speed is probably the fastest for people running for like runners of that distance. So he didn't
Yeah.
need to feel like he needed to push the pace, and he just played the tactics perfectly every time. Which
Yeah, I don't know if I'm like narrow, like obnoxious or whatever, but I've never really heard of him till 2012, and then he won one of the golds there, and he kind of just became like a worldwide sensation
yeah,
immediately, just because
it
obviously
was his
an
home
athletics
Olympics.
medal in home Olympics and just an athletics medal in for anyone, like especially long distance for Great Britain, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Like if a athlete wins a gold medal in Australia, they're automatically like, even if it's Steve Hooker, like they're automatically pretty famous. So yeah, and then he had the big M celebration, which always helps a celebrity's cause when they've got a bit of a trademark going. So yeah, he's just like a well-known thing. And something else, I don't know if this is a legit thing, but because he's the only like British runner, I feel like he might be disadvantaged because sometimes there'll be 3 or 4 Kenyans, and they can kind of pace make for each other.
Yeah, they work
like
together.
the worst one will just one will just sacrifice himself, go out hard in the first like 4 or 5 laps, and set the pace for the better runners.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's a legit thing. But
And in the 10,000 in Rio, he actually stacked it in the middle of the race and got back up and then won. Obviously, it's a bit different to stacking it in a sprint, but because they were just like they weren't. It was near the start, but still.
Yeah, but he was probably like in pain and stuff.
So
yeah, he should do the steeplechase if he's that much of an athlete. But nah, probably there's not once again nothing really against him. I was actually looking at his record, and if you compare it side by side with someone else who we're going to talk about in a second, the big Usain.
Yeah.
I think there's an argument to be had that Mo Farah is the best athlete of the decade because I reckon we just talk about him next, Peanut, because like this might be a bit of a segue, but Usain Bolt's world records were out of this decade and he never bettered them. So I think there's an argument against that. But as you were saying, Brownie, Mo Farah doesn't have a world record, which definitely hurts his case. But I think Mo Farah won more golds at the Worlds than Usain Bolt did this decade. But yeah, obviously the 100-meter sprint's a lot more iconic than the 5,000.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's
all right.
Much better spectator sport, the old 100-meter.
Yeah. There's nothing against the athletes really. Their medal tallies and stuff. It's hard to argue. Like once again, the no one can stop them thing. But that's like just a stupid argument, really. All right, Peanut, are you going to roll with Usain here?
Yeah. Well, I had him second on my notes anyway. Not in terms of rankings, kind of just to speak about. But yeah, 8 Olympic golds, 6 of them since 2010. The decade at least, 11 golds at World Champs.
I'm so pumped for the Olympics now. This is going to be hot.
A lot of Olympians have come up early here, but got 11 golds at World Champs, 8 since 2010. He copped a bronze in 2017 as well. Gold at Glasgow at 2014, the Commonwealth Games. He holds the world records for the 100, 150, and 200 meters. I looked it up. It's just the 150 straight, no bend. So it's just an extended 100. But
it's a lap of the Fisher.
Yeah, for sure. And he holds the national record for the 300 in terms of Jamaican runners. But I think they were all set before 2010, just irrelevant. He's got 6 golds in the 100 meters, 10 golds in 200 meters, and 7 golds in the 4x100. He did retire 2017, which although he's an Olympian, so it doesn't affect his Olympic medals too much. I think there's still a few world champs and stuff he missed out on the medal tally. So still running 70% of the decade and having been in the Congo is a good effort, I reckon. I did find out that he has an Order of Jamaica as a fun fact, which is the equivalent of being knighted in the British honour system. So that's pretty impressive for a sprinter.
Yeah, deserved.
Yeah, I think outside of world champs and Olympic gold medals, and I guess records as well, but I think there's not much to really talk about, whereas the athletes, I think obviously they're a lot more important than saying like race wins for motorsport and stuff. But yeah, they don't really have too many noticeable events apart from the World Champs and Olympics.
Yeah, and I feel bad for Asafa Powell. If it wasn't for Usain Bolt, Asafa Powell would have legit been a worldwide like celebrity. He's still very well known. Like obviously we all know who he is and stuff. But because I was looking at it, the world record progression, he broke it like 4 times from like 2005 to 2008 or something.
Yeah.
And then Usain Bolt just came around and kicked him to the curb. And Justin, like Bolt's copped a lot of good competition in his career. Like he copped Gatlin, who was doping, and I'm still pretty sure he beat him like most times.
Yeah.
And then Tyson, wait, is his name Tyson?
Yeah,
Tyson Gay.
Tyson Gay.
Yeah, he was also very good. I don't know if he doped or not. It's a 50-50 with these athletes, but yeah, he was also very, very good at one point. And then later on in his career, he like copped Johan Blake and, well, at the very end, Andre DeGrasse, or whatever that guy's name is. So it's not like he just ran in a easy era of 100 meters and 200 meters, but yeah, probably the most dominant athlete. Well, I don't really know too much about athletics. I don't know like the ins and outs of like the Jesse Owens and the Carl Lewises and stuff, but he's definitely up there. Well, in my time anyway, 100% the most dominant athlete I've ever seen. It's kind of like he used to win those races so easily as well.
Yeah,
like the last 10 meters, half the time he would slow down, and it was
like there's that photo of him smiling or whatever at the camera.
Yeah, he'd always like look to the side, and he's just such a legend. Like he's such a bubbly personality. He's got his celebration.
Yeah.
He loves like cricket. He loves soccer. Like he just seems like the best bloke.
Sure, so.
Yeah. And it's a shame the A-League didn't sign him up. I think that was a mistrick there. I know they don't want to become a gimmick league, but like that would have been so good for the league. Like I would 100% gone to watch him.
Yeah,
I don't care if he was horrid, but yeah. But no, just a legend of sport, really.
He's 6'5". I think I checked. He's like 94 kilos or something. Like he's just he must just be pure lean muscle.
He's just built for running, really. Yeah. Well, to be honest, a lot of the other good runners nowadays are actually like thick. Like Johan Blake's thick as.
Yeah.
So maybe but just a legend of the game.
Yeah.
The 4x100 meter relays in 2008, 2012, and even 2016, they were probably my most look forward to events. I just loved seeing the Jamaican lads just team up, like a bit of an Avengers style thing, because they would all be competing against each other in the final, and then they would just team up in the relay and just do bits. But it wasn't like, didn't he try and win gold at one of his final world championships and he failed?
Yeah, 2017.
Yeah,
that's probably came. I think he got bronze.
Yeah, he got bronze.
That's probably the one
he
thing.
Was the anchor leg for Jamaica's relay and did his hammy during the race,
right.
And they didn't finish. So
that's probably one thing that is against his name, but obviously,
he was
at that point, he was like 32.
I think that after Rio, he probably like should have retired. Like I don't think he went into that World Championships. It was just like a final hurrah for him, and I don't think he like was at his full capacity at that time anyway.
Yeah, and he lost. I just searched it up. He lost to Justin Gatlin, which I think would have hurt, given the fact, like, I don't know exactly their relationship, but I assume the Jamaicans probably weren't too fond of Justin Gatlin, given the fact that he doped and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's probably the only one downer, but he'd already achieved enough at that point. He was kind of just going for the icing on the cake.
Because he retired in 2017. If you include like 2008 and 9, like his record and stuff, like for his argument for this decade would be a lot stronger.
Yeah.
I feel like
it still is.
And 9 and stuff, like dominant.
He was still an automatic selection, really.
Yeah. And everyone,
like we asked. I tried to ask. I won't lie. I got absolute donuts, but I tried to ask a few people who they think was the best athlete, and I think I got 6 responses, and 3 were Bolt. So, unanimous person to be in this list. There was quite a few of these people I didn't even do research. Like when I got my list of 50, I just picked them out and I'm like, yeah, they're in. And Bolt was one of them. So yeah, I'm actually that pumped for the Olympics now. I think there's only one more. Oh no, there's two more Olympic athletes, and then we're probably going to move into the more mainstream sports. So
Yeah.
if you're waiting for your favorite athletes to come, they're probably going to come in a second. So I've got my final Olympian is Simone Biles. She's 22 years old, a year older than me and Brownie's older siblings. So that's just freakish once again, like Katie Ledecky. She has a combined 30 medals between the Olympics and the Gymnastics World Championships, which is 14 higher than the next best American gymnast. So like she's almost doubled her there. And only two other people have better medal tallies in that regard, and it's 31 and 32, and she's going to the Olympics next year, so most likely gonna beat those records. So yeah, I'm very excited to see how she goes in Tokyo. She's at the very end of her gymnastics career, so she might not be at her best, but I'm sure she'll still beast it. She has the most world championship medals and the most world championship gold medals by an absolute mile. In the gold medal sector, she has 19, I think, and the second has 9. So once again, absolutely just killing the game there. She has the most world all around titles. And in gymnastics, if I'm not mistaken, the all around is basically you just do one of everything.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a
like a tally.
pentathlon thing, but it's a lot more respected. So that's basically just she has the most world titles in that event. So she's basically just confirmed herself as the GOAT gymnast in that because she's beat you know what I mean. And she had the 4th biggest Olympic medal haul behind Phelps ×2 and Ledecky, as we mentioned before. And she is limited there because there's only 6 events in women's gymnastics. So, can't really just go out and pump out 10 or something. Like, I'm sure Phelps has won more than 6 medals at one before, which she can't really do. And she only went to 1 Olympics, but in that Olympics, she won 4 gold, 1 bronze. And similar to Lewis Hamilton, she's not only a legend on the field, but off the field, she's also a legend. She's been a lot. There was a whole sexual abuse scandal with the USA gymnastics team. Like this guy got sentenced to like 80 years in jail or something. It was all pretty dark and stuff. But Simone Biles was like one of the big, I don't know how to say it, like big fighter. Like she fought against it heavily, and she was like very critical of the USA gymnastics setup, which could have been detrimental to her career, but she did well there. Obviously a legend of the game on it, but good to see she's a hero off it as well. And she's honestly, I don't know if you guys have watched interviews of her or anything, but she is just the nicest person. Like she genuinely seems like she wouldn't hurt a fly. Which I know you could be putting it on for the camera or whatever, but she seems like the best bloke ever.
Gotta get around it.
So I know it's not going to be in this decade, but I'm sure after the next Olympics, all these records are going to be even more extreme, and she's probably going to add a few more to her resume. But if I'm going to have to try and poke holes in it, I'll say that she might have fluked that 1 Olympics, and then if she hadn't done that, we wouldn't even know who she is because I had no idea who she was before the Olympics. And by that point, she'd already won quite a few world championship medals and stuff. And just like the popularity of gymnastics probably hurts her case as well.
Yeah.
I think if people named this list just off the top of their head, they would probably forget about Simone Biles a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Especially people who don't really care about the Olympics and just follow like the big sports in the world. So that's probably stuff that goes against her. But once again, can't really criticize her for gymnastics not being the most popular sport. Not really much else she can do other than just continue to smash all these records and be the greatest gymnast of all time. So that's pretty much it. As we were saying, for all these Olympians, it's pretty hard to argue against it because the medals just like confirm how good they are. And so this is basically just a huge advert for the Olympics. So if you want to go see these athletes, so tune in next year. Simone Biles having her last hit out. She's retiring after the Olympics. So if you want to see the gymnast go at it, tune in for that. But we're still only halfway there. This might be a long episode, but Brownie, I know you've got 2 tennis players to come.
Yes.
Who are you going with
I'll
first?
talk about Novak first.
Big
So Novak is the only like of the male tennis players on this list out of him, Rafa and Roger. And once you hear his stats, it's pretty clear why, especially in this decade. He won 15 Grand Slams. Spent 275 weeks at world number one, which is more than double anyone else, more than double Rafa. And then only Andy and Roger had those quick stints as well. And he's won more titles than Novak, than Rafa and Roger in the last decade by far as well. The thing that makes it all the more impressive is the fact that Rafa and Roger were already there. I think that's like the main thing that makes all these achievements particularly impressive, because they were the big two. They had their massive rivalry. I mean, Roger had already been a legend for ages. Rafa was had been dominating the last few years beforehand, and then 2011 comes around, and Novak comes out, wins the Australian Open, and then just goes on an absolute tear and wins. I think he won like 40 something matches in a row in the first half of 2011, just out of nowhere, beating Rafa and Roger over and over and over again. It was just absolutely ridiculous, and everyone was just like, "What is going on?" Rafa and Roger are coming against each other in semi-finals. Like, this is ridiculous. And he eventually calmed down a bit, but his record he has a winning record against both Rafa and Roger, I'm pretty sure, and it's pretty incredible considering that those two are considered the best two tennis players of all time, and he's pretty much dominated in this decade. And I don't think it's going to be long before his stats, in terms of Grand Slam titles and stuff, overtake the other two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Novak's like he was another one who I was pretty much guaranteed. He was pretty much guaranteed to make it. Just he's played in like probably arguably the best men's tennis era ever. You could actually argue these three are the three best ever. And for him to be a unanimous number one across this last decade, in that tennis rankings thing we didn't even have to really think about that one. Just is a testament to how elite he's been.
And I don't have the numbers here with me, but if you do like 2011 to like 2016, like he would have won. It's ridiculous. From like the start of 2011 until, was it 2016 or 2015? When he won the French Open, and then he kind of lost it a bit after that.
I think it was 2015. But I don't know.
I'm not sure, but just crazy. And then obviously the last couple of years as well. But
Rafa kind of cashed in on Novak's injury a little bit. But, so probably the stats probably help Rafa out, surprisingly. Novak, I don't think it's really a big one to discuss. I guess when there's a lot of really good players in one generation, I guess you can say, well, because people would say Roger and Rafa were better than Novak this decade. I'm sure some people would try and argue that. So I guess you can say how can Novak be in here when it's a contested debate if he is even the number one in his own sport? But I think when you contextualize it with how good Roger and Rafa are, I think that makes it even more impressive.
And people's perceptions like are biased from like the fact that Roger and Rafa have had like their greatness like extended into the previous decade, whereas like Novak won one Grand Slam in 2008, but other than that, he was nowhere near Roger and Rafa's level back then because he was young. And then this decade has really been his decade. I mean, Rafa's close-ish, but still, like, all of the stats are in Novak's favor.
Yeah. And he's, like, most likely going to go down. Well, I don't know. It's a tough one because people still might consider Roger the GOAT just because he's kind of the complete package. He's just everything you think of when you think of an elite sportsman. But
it'll just be I feel like the main one is the Grand Slam tally, and Roger's still up just there. He's holding on for dear life, but who knows what's going to happen.
But I'm pretty confident Novak will end his career and be statistically the best player ever. So, and his prime has been in this decade, so definitely fair inclusion. Peanut, Who? Oh, you've got two big boys left.
Oh no, I'm rounding out the Olympians with Phelpsy here.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, 23 Olympic gold medals in his career, just outside of just the decade, obviously, but that's just crazy. He's got nine golds since 2010. Overall, 27 golds at World Champs. I think only 4 gold medals since 2010 out of those. I think the 2010, he really just dominated. But
yeah.
And then he's got 16 golds at the Pan Pacific Champions, and 8 of them have been since 2010, so that's still pretty dominant. And in terms of world records, he actually has, like, in terms of I think they're called the Guinness Most records or something. So like most medals, most races and stuff. He holds 23 of them, so it's pretty impressive as well. He was the 2012 and 2016 Swimmer of the Year. And then in terms of the American swimmers and American like voting systems and stuff, he's received 2012, 2014, 2015, 2016 titles for them as well. So in terms of another, it's called the Associated Press. It's kind of like Sports Illustrated, just I think a not as well known one. He actually got the 2012 Associated Press Athlete of the Year. So that was all American sports and athletes. So that's pretty impressive. But yeah, in terms of his medal tally and stuff, it's just something else. When I was looking at it, when I went on
definitely
actually, and it has all the stats on the side, like under their photo and stuff. You actually have to click a button to say like show all for the medals because it goes down the whole page. So they actually hide it from the start. So I think
his biggest, as you were mentioning before, I think his biggest like cross against his name is the fact that he probably was in his peak before this decade. But he's basically at a 20-year peak. So
I'm sure if you went like 2005 to 2015 or something, or even like maybe extend a little bit, 2004 to 2014, maybe exclude Rio because maybe he wasn't as good then, from like Athens Olympics up to 2014, that 10 years, like he'd
be number one.
Absolutely insane. It was like absolute insanity.
Yeah. He's probably one of the people in this list. I don't know if it's similar to like the Roger bias, but it's probably biased because like he was elite before the decade. But there's quite a few of these people who you're like, yeah, they're really awesome. They deserve to be in this top 12, but they're probably not number one.
Yeah.
Where Phelps is probably one of the people who is in contention for that, just because like compared to Ledecky, Biles, all the other Olympians we've talked about, I know it's different for the different sports because like obviously Usain Bolt can't compete in 6 events. But he has the 2 biggest medal hauls in this decade. So like it's just that basically just speaks for itself, really. But yeah, as Brownie said, 2016 he was probably past it, but he still came away with like 6 medals or something.
Yeah, well, he actually retired after the 2012 Olympics and then came back in 2014.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Although,
just a legend.
Did he win how many of the individual medals did he win then? Because like obviously he's from the US. This is one thing that you can think about with like, it's the same with Usain Bolt. Like if they weren't from Jamaica or the US respectively, they wouldn't have won like especially with Michael Phelps, probably wouldn't have won half the medals if he wasn't American, because America are just very dominant in the swimming. But obviously
in Rio he won 200 butterfly and 200 medley golds.
Oh, okay.
But he also got 3 golds at Rio in the relays.
Yeah. Still probably the best swimmer regardless of that anyway though, by far.
But yeah, just there's not really much to talk about. Phelps is like, as I keep saying, these Olympians.
9 of his goals at Olympics are relays. The rest are individual. So
okay. So like not even half of relays. I thought I just presumed that like most of them were relays, but I guess there's not that many relays, are there?
Yeah. So he's just a freak, really.
Yeah.
Probably, I don't know. Once again, like gymnastics, I'm not the biggest swimming fan, but pretty confident he's the swimming goat. Pretty confident in saying that. The torpedo, jokes. That's just complete Australian bias there. But he definitely was another one that I just didn't have to research. When I was making the shortlist, he was straight in there like swimwear. So That's pretty much it for Michael Phelps. I'm going to pump out my two now in one go because I don't really, it's basically the exact same awards and stuff. So I don't really want to just say it once and then twice. So I've got Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi. I'm just going to come out and say their biggest downfall, a bit like Novak, is probably themselves because there's not really been a clear GOAT. Like it's a big debate till this day. If you go on Twitter and look at any soccer post in the comments section, there's Ronaldo and Messi fans lipping off each other. So yeah, but in my opinion, they're undoubtedly the number one and number two best soccer players of all time. Obviously, I wasn't around for like Maradona and stuff, but just some of the groundbreaking feats they've had, I don't think there's a debate in it. And it's pretty tight between the two. I personally favor Messi, so there's 100% of bias in my research and stuff, but the stats for both of them are just insane. So Cristiano Ronaldo played for Real Madrid, Juventus, and Portugal in this decade. He won 19 team trophies. He won 3 league titles, 2 cup competitions, 4 Champions League, 3 FIFA Club World Cups, 1 European Championship, and 1 UEFA Nations League. Meanwhile, Messi, not too bad either. Playing for Barca and Argentina, he won 24 team trophies, 7 league titles, 5 cup competitions, 2 Champions Leagues, and 2 FIFA Club World Cups. So just on that alone, pretty much in the list already, even if they were just getting carried. But the fact that they were doing the carrying is a silly thing. This is probably one of Messi's biggest downfalls, is that he doesn't have a major trophy for Argentina. Whereas Cristiano Ronaldo, Portugal is the 17th largest European country, which was a bit of a shock to me. I thought it would maybe be like 10th, but yeah. Prior to this decade, they had only made the World Cup 4 times, and the World Cup has been going since 1930. So that's not much at all. I think Australia had made it twice before this decade, maybe 3 times. And then this decade, Portugal won the European Championships, so like the European like version of the World Cup, basically. Came third in the other European Championships. They won the UEFA Nations League, which is basically a European competition. So it's basically the Euros, but it's like a league format, so it goes over a year. And they qualified for all 3 World Cups, and they made it out of the group stage of 2 of those World Cups, which I think they'd only done once before or something. So he made a serious difference. There has to be said, they've got a pretty good team. It's not just him, but he's definitely been a huge reason why they've become good. Messi, Argentina, they've been a seriously good football country for a long time, unlike Portugal. They've won the World Cup twice in their time, and they've won the South American Championship called the Copa America 14 times. So he's not really quite had the impact on his country that Ronaldo has, but that's not really his fault. It's just they were good before him as well. But this decade, they were the runner-up twice, 3rd place once, and made the quarterfinals once in the Copa America. So he's done pretty much everything else you can do except for win it. They were runners-up in the 2014 World Cup, and they made it to the round of 16 in the 2018 World Cup. So that's the main discrepancy between the 2 records, is that Ronaldo has insane international success and Messi doesn't have so much. And you could argue that Argentina's had better players than Portugal, so that's something Ronaldo's got over Messi. In terms of the Ballon d'Or, which is the best player award, Ronaldo has won 4. Messi, this is in this decade alone, Ronaldo won 4, Messi won 5. Messi was the runner-up in 4, so he's made the top 2 9 times. Ronaldo was runner-up in 4, so he was in the top 2 8 times. So this is like, although it sounds insane to have 2 people from one sport in the top 12, this just shows how stupid these guys are, because although there's some insane people in other sports, like, for example, Tom Brady is probably the best NFL player ever. He's probably the GOAT. I think he only has like 3 or 4 MVPs, where these guys have whipped out 5 or something in one decade. So, 3 MVPs. So I'm not saying it's like a easy comparison there, but and then Cristiano Ronaldo, every year of this decade, he was in the top 3 UEFA Men's Player of the Year. Messi, he won the Player of the Tournament in the 2014 FIFA World Cup. In Cristiano Ronaldo, he's the top scorer in the Champions League 6 times this decade, and he became the highest scorer ever in that competition. Messi is second. So in every year of the Champions League this year, one of them was the top scorer. And the weird thing is, Ronaldo has about 130 goals in that. Messi has about 115. Next is like 60. So they're just worlds away.
Oh my God.
Ronaldo is the second top scorer ever in the Spanish league history. Messi is the top, but Ronaldo has a better goal ratio, so that has to be noted. Yeah, and like this just goes on and on. Ronaldo has been the top scorer in the world 5 times, top scorer in Europe 3 times. Messi, top scorer in the world 2 times, top scorer in Europe 6 times, which is the most ever, and that was in 1 decade. They both made the FIFA Team of the Year every single year. Ronaldo made the UEFA Team of the Year, so the European Team of the Year every year. Messi missed it once. And then in terms of they have a few different records, which I thought I'd mention just to give them a few different points of similarities. Ronaldo in 2017, most international goals scored in a calendar year with 32. In 2018, he was the oldest player to score a hat-trick at a World Cup. In 2011 to 17, he is the only player to score 50 goals in 7 straight years. And he is the most followed person on Instagram and Facebook, fun fact, which is obviously a great achievement. Messi in 2012, most goals ever in 1 year with 91. He broke like 8 records that year. I'm not going to read them all out. He scored in 21 straight matches that year. He scored against every team in consecutive matches. So like they were probably all just drinking their sorrows, like talking about Messi. He has the most assists ever in soccer, just the sport ever. He has also won the most man in the matches in 1 World Cup with 4. So that's it. There you go.
Who's first on the assists?
Sorry?
Who's first? Who got the most assists?
Messi.
Oh, I thought
Messi has the most ever. I actually don't know who has second. It's probably a long way back though. So yeah, that's pretty much all you need to know for them. I think the resume kind of speaks for itself. They've just done everything you can possibly do in soccer. I prefer Messi just because he's a bit more of a team player. He's just a bit. I just prefer watching him play. But basically, they're the 2 goats of soccer, which is probably which is like the most popular sport in the world. So
yeah,
I think it's pretty fair for both of them to make it.
Yeah.
Well,
Any holes in there?
So it's definitely a debate.
Yeah, any holes in their resumes, boys?
Nope. 0 holes.
Yeah, like I said before, I guess the only thing you can put against them is that we don't even know who the best of the decade is. But I think when they were that good, I don't think it matters too much. I think they're both the best of this decade and the best in soccer history. So I don't think it matters too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, pretty privileged as a soccer fan to have grown up watching the 2 best players ever. Kind of taking it for granted, but yeah. So that's actually me done. I'm done. All right, so Brownie.
Let's go.
Who's your final person?
Final person is Serena Williams. Serena. No surprises that she's here to anyone. But so she's
Before you start, I have to say, if someone put a gun to my head and I have to pick someone, I'd pick Serena.
I was gonna say that, and then the stats. I was like, ooh.
Oh, maybe I should wait. Maybe I should wait. I'm stressed.
So Serena in the decade won 12 Grand Slams. So 3 Australian Opens, 2 French Opens, 4 Wimbledon's, 3 US Opens, and she won 2 Olympic golds, singles and doubles in London. Spent 238 weeks at world number 1, and was particularly dominant. So in terms of the female tennis players, like, there's just no debate at all. There's just absolutely no way that you could have anyone else at number 1 for the last decade at all. Like,
when we did our rankings, I didn't even research her.
Just no need.
Her at number 1, number 2.
So she's just the best female tennis player of the last decade. She was the best female tennis player of the decade before, without question as well. She was particularly dominant from like 2011 to 2016, I would say. Because she had an injury at the start, and then since 2016, she's been a bit more up and down, and obviously she had a child. She was out for an entire year. Hasn't quite been the same since coming back. As in, of course, been still incredible. Made 4 Grand Slam finals, but have lost all of them. And hasn't played. I mean, this 238 weeks at world number 1 stat, like, take it with a bit of a grain of salt, because for the last 5 years, being world number 1 hasn't really been a priority. So she hasn't played anywhere near as many tournaments as most of the other players in the world. So she doesn't really care if she's not world number 1. It's not really what she's there for anymore. She just wants to win the Grand Slams. So no question, women's tennis, number 1 this decade, number 1 last decade, probably number 1 ever. I'd say she's the GOAT. I don't think. I mean, her longevity as well has just been crazy. And then, of course, she's had injuries and a child as well over that time. She's had like periods where she's been out for a year and back in and stuff. But I was surprised that her stats aren't as good as Novak's for this last decade. As in, Novak has 3 more Grand Slams. Novak has like 30 more weeks at world number 1. And that actually surprised me, to be honest.
I think it's the nature of men's tennis, though.
Yeah,
like
no.
I think they're a lot more consistent.
Yes, this is true. And the one thing about the Grand Slams is the whole 5 sets. Leans itself towards less upsets. As well. But I think that Serena, I wouldn't put her as number 1 for the decade, or maybe overall.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to think about it.
If I'm gonna have to put someone for this century so far, I'm putting Serena, because her 2000s decade, 2000 to 2010, was as good. Maybe not as dominant, but she won as much in the last decade as she did in the decade before that.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, to be the best in your sport for 2 whole decades, and that's not even like she started in 2006 and dominated for 4 years. Like, she won her first Grand Slam in 1999. Like, her longevity in the sport is absolutely crazy, and she's been the number 1 player, even though she's been out and hasn't been the most consistent the whole 20 years. She's been like the number 1 person to beat. She's still the top person to beat. Like, if you beat Serena, that's the biggest scalp. And that's been that way for almost 20 years. So, I mean, not much to say, really.
I think she's probably the most dominant.
Out of this list. For sure. There's just the least amount of questions to be asked about whether she's the GOAT of her sport with her. I think it's the most clear cut.
Yeah, her and Phelps are probably the 2 outstanding candidates in terms of that. They're like the guaranteed GOAT, where most of the others, like Lewis has Schumacher, Messi has Ronaldo, Ronaldo has Messi, LeBron James has, sorry for the spoiler, but LeBron James has Michael Jordan, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
Where Serena has no one.
Serena and Phelps, the only issue with both of them is this decade specifically hasn't.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, if it was 2005 to 2015,
even more. You just went 2000.
But even with Serena and with Michael Phelps, you go 2000 to 2020, and you do this exact. If you go 21st century and do this exact podcast again, that would be the 2 outstanding candidates even more than they are already.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, I don't think many of these people, their case would strengthen if you expanded it, but those 2 definitely would.
Yes.
All right, so I mentioned it, but, well, do we have any flaws about Serena? I guess you mentioned it, that she's kind of fallen away the last few years. That's probably her only thing. But there's not really anything else, really. She's just been that much better than everyone else.
Well, she's in her absolute truck, so she just dominated.
Yeah, and I have to say, I'm not a Serena fan. I don't really like her. Well, I don't know her, obviously, but I don't really like her. She doesn't seem like the best bloke, but I can appreciate how good she is. All right, last person. I've mentioned it before. LeBron James. Peanut, this is probably an emotional one for you, mate, because you are a Miami Heat fan. But
he's probably my favorite player of all time. Always been a LeBron fan.
Basketball or sportsman?
It's tough. Almost sportsman. I started following the Heat in like 2007 because of stuff, and then LeBron joined the boys, and I was up and about, and then I kind of followed him.
Yeah.
Like I was more interested in LeBron at the Cavs when he went back than like the Heat at that time and stuff. So.
Yeah, I don't think anyone, maybe bar Ronaldo, has like that thing in team sport. Like there is genuine just LeBron supporters. They don't care about the team. They just go for LeBron wherever he goes.
Team success bandwagoners.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like the Warriors and stuff, people like kind of just got around them because they were like dominating and stuff, rather than like one player went there and stuff like that.
Everyone just loves him. It's crazy.
Well, I mean, he was first pick at 2003, and he was picked out of high school, which is just unheard of. And then he won Rookie of the Year. But in terms of the decade, it's really something else. Well, 3 championships, 3 finals, MVPs. He's got 4 MVPs. I don't think one of them might have been outside of 2010, or all 4 are in. Well, since 2005, he's been an All-Star every year. He's got 12 All-NBA first teams. I think 1 or 2 of them might have been outside of 2010 decade, but the rest are all in there. Again, that AP Athlete of the Year thing, he's got 3 of them, whereas Phelps had 1, so that's pretty good comparison for the decade. 2 times Sports Illustrated Athlete of the Year. 2 Olympic golds. I don't think he played at 2016, so I think only 1 of them would have come from London this decade. But some of his stats he's held up throughout the decade. Averages over 25 points, at least 6 assists, and he's actually got his career high assists this year at 35 years old. And he's averaged at least 7 rebounds since 2010. So 25, 6, and 7 every year is pretty silly. Again, kind of like what you said about Ronaldo changing Portugal and stuff as a team, like impacting them, like what he did with the Cavs when he went back and they had a pretty bunny team, like to get them to the finals and stuff was just, I don't think anyone else in the league could have put him close.
Matthew Dellavedova.
People were arguing like, oh yeah, KD could have done it and stuff, but I don't think so. I think KD's might be probably a better scorer than him and stuff, but I think in terms of playmaking and stuff, I think LeBron, just hadn't covered. I think LeBron was the only person that could do that. He's probably my favourite sportsman of all time.
He's so popular. Like, I don't know. Is it because of the way he plays, or is it because of the off field as well? I know he's quite a character.
Yeah, well, he's very
social media stuff. Seen his Taco Tuesday videos, but
he's very opinionated. I think he's got some dramas involving China and stuff. I haven't really looked into that at all. I feel he's one of those sportsmen where a lot of people love him and a lot of people hate him.
Yeah, it's like Ronaldo.
I don't think there's too many people mid-range. Like,
I
think you either love him or you hate him, depending on who you go for and stuff. But like, he's just dominated so many teams in the decade. Again, you could argue that he's had like good supporting casts.
Yeah, I was going to say that's probably the one thing you could say, because he's had like Kyrie, Dwayne Wade. Now he's got AD.
Kyrie when they won in 2016, but still some of the numbers he was putting up, even with those boys around him, like it almost gives him more credit because the other players could have taken those stats off him. But
exactly,
pretty crazy.
Yeah. So there's not really been too many flaws we've pointed out for any of them, but that's probably the only thing I was thinking of, that he's always had a good supporting cast. But
even that 2017, also 2018, where they got swept in the finals, but like the team he was with, it was silly they made it so far.
Yeah, Locke was saying if you go on accolades alone, that Steph Curry is arguably ahead of LeBron here, but I think you've got to take into account like their dominance on the court and stuff. Yeah,
well, I mean, LeBron's finals record of 3-6. If that was the other way around, he say he went 6-3, like it's a whole different. Like it'd almost be like against MJ and stuff, like having the same amount of rings or more rings and stuff. Like, it would put him so far ahead, I think.
Yeah, LeBron's probably the only bloke in this list. I can't remember off the top of my head who else we've talked about, but that's probably not the GOAT of their sport, but it just doesn't matter because he's like so far ahead of everyone else who's been so good. So it's not really, and he's still got time, I guess. He's still playing pretty bloody well.
Yeah,
Do you know if he's going to the next Olympics? Surely not.
I don't know.
I think they're sending a good team though, because apparently what they do, they send their good team, win gold, then they just slowly get worse, and then they have one bad result, and then everyone just comes back like the dream team, and then they just slowly. It's a cycle.
2016 they didn't put out a super team, but they just beat Australia.
And then last year in the World Cup, they came like they lost in the quarterfinals or something. So apparently they were going to be sending a good team.
I think Spain.
Yeah, apparently they were going to be sending a good team, but I'm not too sure. So yeah, I guess we'll find out.
If they send all their best, they would. It just
I hope they don't, because it just makes it boring.
Yeah, it wouldn't be fun.
But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's our 12. Are there any that you think are worth? Well, obviously there's a lot of great sportsmen out there, but are there any that you personally thought they were very close?
I did get some Tom Brady researching, just a bit of bias.
Yeah,
I mean, I love the bloke.
I considered him. I thought he was a guaranteed, to be honest. And then I got to about the final 30, or even less. I got to like the final 20, and I looked at him, and I'm like, it's kind of not been that dominant this decade. Like, he's just been a very good player this decade, but he was a very good player last decade. And then when you merge them, he's a legend. So that's probably why I didn't go him. Because if you look at like a Drew Brees or an Aaron Rodgers, he's not even that much better than them this decade. But
yeah, he was actually
the main thing against him.
The 2010 All-Decade team, he was unanimously voted in. So I thought that was pretty impressive and quite relevant to the discussion.
Yeah,
but he holds a lot of good records.
Yeah,
most wins for a quarterback, I think. Oldest MVP at 40 years old. I thought that was pretty
40. Is he 40?
Yeah,
he's like 42 now. I think
43. Winning the MVP at that age, let alone playing, is like crazy.
Yeah.
Like, many people like young and in their prime and stuff, and still knock him over.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing maybe against Tom Brady is that he's played with the best coach his whole career, but it's kind of like the chicken or the egg. Like, who makes? Like, is he the best quarterback, which makes him the best coach, or is he the best quarterback? Yeah, so you can't really put that against him. Brownie, anyone who you thought was close for you?
I don't know. Hard to say. I mean, obviously,
like Roger and
Rafa. Well, probably not Roger in this decade discussion, but Rafa's obviously close as well. But it's impossible to. I think you can't put someone in this discussion when they're not the best of their own sport in the last decade.
Yeah, exactly.
And even though with Messi and Ronaldo, it's like a debate. Whereas with Novak and Rafa, I think it's pretty clear that Rafa isn't.
Yeah.
So, you can't it's impossible to argue that someone's the best sportsman of the last decade, but they're not the best person in their sport in the last decade. So I understand why he's excluded. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. The people that were close to me, they were the fighters. So there's John Jones in the MMA and Floyd Mayweather. I don't know. It's a tough one to talk about fighting because they could go undefeated. So it's like, what more can they do? But then at the same time, I just don't care. Well, for John Jones, he tested positive, not for COVID, for doping after one fight. So that basically ruled him out for me, even though he's gone undefeated in UFC. And then Floyd Mayweather, I thought he was a lock, but I looked at it. He's got a 51-0 record, I think. He only won 10 in this decade.
Yeah.
So I'm like, although he beat Manny Pacquiao and Canelo Alvarez, who are arguably like two of the top 5 as well, ever.
Yeah.
It wasn't enough for me. A few others who got close, they were kind of just in smaller sports, so I couldn't really add them. Stephanie Gilmore and Carissa Moore, they've both been like really dominant in women's surfing. I think they won 4 each or something, 4 titles each. Marc Marquez, who I mentioned before, the MotoGP, I think he's won 7 of the 10 seasons this year. But yeah, once again, too much of a myth sport, and he's kind of competed with Valentino Rossi, who's like the best MotoGP guy ever. And then cyclists, Chris Froome and Peter Sagan. Peter Sagan, I think, is arguably maybe next to Eddie Merckx. I know this is getting pretty niche for the sports, but getting next to Eddie Merckx is probably the best cyclist ever. And then Chris Froome has won like 4 Tour de France's or something, which is like one behind the best ever. And he's just been dominant. So all those people I just mentioned, they were right up there for me, but for one reason or another, they missed out. But yeah, there's so many great sportsmen, obviously. I've actually enjoyed it. I thought it was going to be a stressful conversation because making decisions like this stresses me out. I get stressed thinking about what takeaway dinner we're having on Saturday night or something. But
I think it was good that we weren't arguing for a ranking or something.
yeah,
just
I
discussing.
prefer that. Yeah,
It's
I
definitely
prefer that.
You can't put a ranking on them.
If someone puts a gun to your head, who are you going? Nah, Joe. I actually have no idea. Like, I dead set. I would like to say someone, but I honestly don't know. Like, I can't say.
Yeah, I can't say, because also with the decade, the thing about it is it's such like strict lines, and like you can't be biased. Like, it's impossible not to be biased to what happened beforehand.
Yeah, you can't
like,
disconnect it. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, agree. So yeah, it's really hard. But that's it for episode 45. We're getting close to 50. I've got something planned for 50, but I probably need to get a wriggle on. But yeah, it's nothing special. So I'm not like jumping out of a plane or anything. It sounds like it's epic. It's just an episode. But yeah, thanks for joining me, boys. I hope you enjoyed the chat. It was a long episode, this one, but I don't mind it because the last few episodes have been very short. I've recorded episode 44 last night. It was like 27 minutes or something. So, bit of a change up. Yeah. So that's it. That's all I've got, really. I don't have much to say. Congratulations to these 12. I'm sure they're listening. Shout out to all of them.
I'll send LeBron the link just to make sure he gets it.
Yeah, I'll tag them in the Instagram post so they're aware that they've made this prestigious list. Now I'm so pumped for the Olympics.
Yeah,
I'm keen because now I've got like
yesterday.
I've got like 4 people.
I think yesterday was meant to be the first day of the Olympics or something. Yesterday,
yeah,
the day before.
I think it was. I think Friday was the Olympic the ceremony.
Yeah.
So yeah, the first day of competition was probably Saturday. But yeah, because I think they were playing the Sydney Olympic stuff on Channel 7 on the weekend to fill the void.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, looking forward to that.
Yes.
Get to see, I think, over half of these people in action. Surely Phelps is done, just quietly.
Yeah, Phelps is done.
All right,
Serena
I'm kind of
and
glad
Novak
about that.
both be there. I think most will be there. Who's not going to be there? Ronaldo and Messi won't be there.
Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah.
Unless Usain Bolt.
Yeah, no, he's gone.
But everyone else, Ledecky, Biles, LeBron could be there. Mo Farah, Kipchoge, Djokovic, and Serena should all be there, barring anything special. So that's something to look forward to. That is a year away. So it's more than a year, I'm pretty sure. Or I don't know when they're holding it.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. So very excited. So thanks for joining me, guys. Thanks for listening. If you're still listening, that's a very good effort. If you're still listening, it's been a long one. But yeah, enjoy your week. Thanks for joining me, boys. See ya.
Thanks, cool.
Thanks.
Well, I always say thanks for joining me like 6 times.